We are recording another episode of Talking Spatial, and
Mm.
that's Linda, and I'm Sean, and I'm fading in and out on camera here today because I'm actually up at the race shop today and I'm sitting in one of our simulators because it's comfortable, and I have a really big 49-inch super ultra wide screen, but I have no green screen today. So that's why I'm kind of fading in and out of existence.
I have none of that. I just have my laptop.
Yeah, but
My
you're
new
cool.
laptop.
You're
My new
yeah.
laptop.
I was going to say just your laptop these days.
Just my laptop.
It's a
I'm
little different than
excited.
it was a week and a half ago. Yeah,
One computer only. A
to rule them
kick-ass
all.
computer. It is. It kind of is.
One PC to rule them all.
I've got all the screen, the colors on the keyboard are all pink and green and orange and fun stuff. I was very girly.
You're all RGB'd up now.
You can with the Alienware, you can change the keyboard colors and you can make the backlit like all these bizarre. You can actually use a color wheel. It's pretty impressive. So I'm still amused by that. I'm sure it will wear thin and eventually I'll just go back to no backlighting. But for now, it's kind of fun to have neon pink lights on my computer.
Welcome to 2020. And and now that you're here,
I'm a grown woman. I have pink computer. Yes.
Go ahead and throw out because we got to get a little geeky, right? Go ahead and throw out some specs. Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead and make us all jealous.
I don't even remember them.
Oh my god.
I know. I that geeky I'm not. I know it has it's a 2080 i10
2080 Ti?
No, yeah, I don't remember. I don't know. I just know when I picked it, it was kick-ass, and now I forget what that means.
That's a lot of firepower in a laptop.
It'll do
even
it
though the 30 series cards are out. The 20
they are apparently all being taken. You cannot buy a 3080 because
you really can't.
And I heard this is a quote from somebody that crypto bros, because Bitcoin has gotten so expensive, they're all buying them to mine Bitcoin. So you can't even get one. But apparently for VR, you don't really need it anyway yet. That's just for the rendering side of things, potentially, with the ray tracing. You don't need it for just making and creating it all. So I got a 2080. It's the latest generation of Intel. It's got, I think, 64 gigs of RAM. It's pretty cool. It's a racehorse.
So I'm just sitting here with my lowly 1080 Ti.
And it's got a gorgeous screen. It's got an OLED screen, which is just a game changer. I think I'm going to be able to actually sit outside, out back during the sunlight and actually use it because it's so bright. I have it turned down to 50%. It's still really bright.
That's awesome.
It's so clear. So it's.
I'm just happy that you have a reliable machine. It's been a while. That means everything. So that's.
I know. I'm going to back it up real fast so that I can it goes all pear-shaped in the future because it always does.
Do you have it? You have it sitting on top of a pillow and surrounded by pillows, and there's a pillow under the table.
Because that would make it underheat.
You're just protecting it and like.
No. I took it in my nice little Vera Bradley backpack the other day. Nope, it's a workhorse. It's got to work.
It's a machine. All right, cool.
It's got to work.
Game on. All right, so let's get into it. Let's jump right into what we came here to talk about this week, and we came here to talk about.
Yeah, you sent me an article, and that's what got our conversation started, right? Yep. And the article was about Earth 2, I think is the one you sent me. And the buying and the selling of digital worlds for land, as it were. And you were intrigued by this phenomenon.
I'm intrigued by it. I jumped into Second Life way back, like way back. And
me too.
And had a look around, and when Second Life first kicked off, it took, I don't know, how long did it take before we started seeing like Coca-Cola and Volkswagen?
Well, in 2009, I had clients like that who wanted to be in Second Life. I was in before.
Right.
But I remember 2009, I was working in a large ad agency in New York and head of the digital strategy part of it. And we had, it was pretty funny actually, because to do the research I needed to do, our firewall at work wouldn't allow us to access Second Life because it was against company policy. So I had to go home and work because I wasn't allowed to.
Stop playing your games.
Yeah.
You and your games.
what's the name of that? There was a computer manufacturer which starts with a C. There was a bunch of them. No, it's another one. But they really wanted to do a Second Life world, and this is when it started to go mainstream. And I think they were using it in remarkably uncreative ways when we did actually. Oftentimes I was trying to convince clients not to do it because I don't think it was the right strategy for them at all. Their clients are not there. It doesn't represent their brand. Their brand is a non-high involvement brand. Like, why would you go visit them in Second Life if it's just a utilitarian type of a brand relationship you have with the brand? It's a brand affinity. So we actually talked a couple brands who shall remain nameless out of it, but they all wanted to do it. And that was in 2009. So
okay,
that's how long ago.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. Yeah, I definitely remember it being that long ago, if not even a little further back than that.
Yeah,
I jumped in, and me being the race guy that I am, literally sitting in a simulator doing this podcast with a steering wheel in front of me because I'm weird like that. But I remember jumping in this Second Life.
Oh yeah, I just noticed that.
It's
nice. You've got a steering wheel.
It's right here.
So there's three. It's like you have one of those little plastic cars, Sean.
This is a little more than a little plastic car.
I know.
Yeah, so I just remember jumping into Second Life, and Renault Sport specifically had created a world within Second Life that you could jump in and
simulate the drive.
It wasn't a simulated drive because the physics just weren't capable within that world, and they didn't have a way to utilize Second Life as a three-dimensional user interface that would launch you into another piece of software with physics that would be deemed good enough for that experience. And graphically, the fidelity wasn't really there to.
It was a clunky interface.
Yeah, the fidelity wasn't there to truly give you a feel for or give you photorealistic representations of Renault's current lineup. What they did, though, was create a Formula One track, and they had their Formula One cars, and you could walk around them, and you could
look at them.
You could sort of interact with other Renault fans during Grand Prix weekends, and it was for what it was at the time, and a decade ago.
Sure,
it was pretty cutting edge, and it felt cool, and it was a glimpse of where we're going, and I think that might have even been the catalyst for me really pushing when I had the software companies to create those 3D experiences where you jumped into a game or a simulation, and the user interface was literally the environments that you were in, instead of having a text-based UI, which that's totally another episode, and we talked about this. I'm not going to jump off on that tangent right now, even though I want to.
I do. Just fight it.
Rein it in.
Yeah.
But Second Life was the catalyst, and it remained relevant for a long time too.
Yeah, I mean, it's still around. I visited not too long ago. I think about a year ago. I went back in. I forget my login. I had to create a new one, and my avatar was gone and all that. And I was a little disappointed that it hadn't evolved further than it did. It kind of was exactly the same. Yeah, it was.
The avatars are better, but they're still not great compared to other places.
The women's avatars, no matter what you do, you look like you're a slut. I hate that word. I'm sorry. I know it's passe these days. But no matter what you do, you look like you're like, it was. And I'm just like, I'm trying very hard to make it not look like I'm sitting there going, But it was, I took some screenshots because I was laughing my ass off. It's like, it still looks like, your avatar is sitting there like, hey boys. It's just wrong. Anyway,
awesome.
I feel Rosedale is not listening to this. He doesn't care.
Did you ever try it with VR?
Yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah, I tried it with VR. There was a Sony, like a Sony Island or whatever. That I tried out. There were 3 or 4 like brand based.
Well, I think it was for its time. It was, the interface was still a keyboard. It was, it was clunky. But I mean, the visionary part of it was amazing. And I think Philip Rosedale really saw where it was going. You know, he's a very smart man. He's very visionary. I don't use that term lightly. And it was just a little before the time in terms of usability. But the interesting thing, and this is what you were curious about, was the land buying, which at the time did very well. Some people did very well with. And it's, you know, it's they have X number of servers. They have Y amount of space they can create with those. They parcel it up and you can buy and sell it. And there's a raft of new ones that have come out that are, Earth 2 is the one you pinged me about, but there's other ones. And some of them are tying it to blockchain so that like they have their own currency on their own blockchain, you know, whatever. Some of them are based on Ethereum, some of them based on their own. But they're trying to create economies that are essentially, you know, closed economies based on their own currency, and to have people buy and sell land, virtual land, as a, yeah. So they've digitized the earth. And the only issue I take with this is that their advertising makes it sound like they somehow have bought the rights to the airspace, the digital rights of New York, and somehow you can own a piece of Manhattan. And you know, there's nothing to stop 100 others to start their own digital world with their own version of New York. It's not
That's
like
going to happen though, right?
It's not like you have some exclusive rights to that spot and that somehow once you buy it, it's yours. And it's all speculation. It's all people going, well, I'm going to buy a parcel of land and then I'm going to sell it in the future. I'm going to make money on it. And part of the problem, and Second Life came up against this with Linden dollars, is converting it back to fiat. What is the exchange rate? I know Linden created some ill will back when, because initially you could use like a Coinbase back, and it was a different name, but to convert your Linden dollars that you earned when you were buying and selling things to dollars. And then they shut that down and you had to go directly through them. So just like Facebook's trying to create its own crypto, you know, Bitcoin, blockchain-based currency, so did Linden Labs, and so are some of these people. And it's I'm sorry, I'm going to get hate mail for this, but I think it's a bit of a fool's rush. You can make some short-term money probably by buying and selling, but it's not like it's you're taking a gamble that A, they're going to have some sort of economy, because B, enough people are flocking to it, and that there's enough going to happen there that it becomes into a true economy. You need a certain amount of people to do that. And I was looking for numbers on how many people actually participate in this Earth 2 thing, and I haven't been able to find it. But you know, you have a critical mass of people that have to be there, and some people are buying it because they want to make a virtual digital portfolio of their stuff. That makes sense. Some people are going to build, you know, amusement parks. Some people are going to try stuff that's a little more unsavory, and that is something that is an issue because it's not really policed or trafficked. Like, it's kind of like Silk Road in a way. You can make anything you want there. Right. In the digital world on your own parcel of land. But you know what happened in Second Life is everybody just kind of started putting up their own walls around their properties, and you know, you couldn't get in unless you were invited in. So it wasn't exactly an open space anymore. It's like everybody has their own little island where they're doing their own little fantasy thing in there. And whether that fantasy is, you know, 2 sofas and a fireplace or something else. And it's not really, it doesn't interact. So they've got to, yeah, I've seen all this. They've got to, they're making it sound like this is some one in a lifetime chance, but it's not. There's nothing to stop somebody else from doing the exact same world and having, you know, a currency there and having a marketplace there. I mean, it just, I don't know.
So how many of these, I mean, well, that's a stupid question. Never mind. How many? I was going to say, how many of these do you think are going to pop up? But it's impossible.
Depends on what they do with them. No, yeah,
literally.
It depends on there's no limit. The only limit is back-end servers, right? And again, if you're going to have a buy and sell economy, you're going to have a certain. You're going to have a certain number of people involved in it. So that's the thing. They have a two-sided marketplace issue, right? They've got to drive enough people to this to make it interesting, to drive the prices up. And that's a difficult and expensive proposition to acquire these. And I don't know, this seems to be hot, but what hot means, I don't know. I do not know how many people are actually involved with this. And it's all because as soon as you mention blockchain or Bitcoin these days, everybody flocks to it. And it's just a hot word.
Right. I think I'm gonna start selling merchandise for some other stuff that I'm involved in, and I'm gonna sell them as blockchain only, only available through blockchain, like
Throw in the word
monthly
AI and you're
t-shirts or
golden. Just throw in the word AI. See, this I don't understand. They have different land parcels in different countries. It's a virtual world. You are instantaneously transported anywhere. There is no such thing as a country. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, gee, South Korea. So I teleport there and I'm in South Korea. It doesn't make a difference where it is on the globe.
It really doesn't.
Why is there different prices for the different countries? I looked at this, I was like, what does it make a difference? It's literally instantaneous transportation to wherever you are. So what does it make a difference where it's located?
I think it's perceived value. I mean, it wouldn't that be what's driving this? Is no
Yeah,
one
no, I think
wants.
everybody thinks it's a get rich quick scheme because it says this is blockchain based and it's we're gonna speculate, somebody's gonna want it in the future. I went on the boards and I looked at a couple of people's comments and mostly it was like, oh, I'm buying it now and hopefully in the future I'm gonna sell it for a lot of money. And that's what it is, it's hope.
No one
It's
wants Greenland, but everyone wants Manhattan. It's no
why
one.
you can instantly
Right.
transport anywhere. It doesn't make an ounce of difference where you are.
No one wants Siberia, but everyone wants like Moscow or whatever.
If you're gonna buy a plot of digital land so that you can build your own experience on it, what does it make an ounce of difference where it's located? You instantly transport there anyway.
The only thing I think that would make a difference is if you through this could make it interesting. If through Earth 2, the locations that you buy, say I bought downtown Kansas City, I bought the plaza in Kansas City, and then I could go into that area, and anything that I put up as far as a storefront, e-commerce, AR interactivity in my Earth 2 version of the plaza, if someone logs into that, then all of the stuff that I geolocate to that region is now available through AR. So someone walking around in real life on the plaza now has access to all of the stuff that I have put in that area through my Earth 2 presence. Does that make
Why do you need an Earth 2 presence for that? Why not?
You don't need it, but you don't need it for anything other than it's a place that drives people to, or like if Earth 2,
look, if they become as ubiquitous as Facebook, it's a different story. But right now, I bet you anything they don't have that many users.
Oh, I'm sure they don't. Yeah. I'm sure they don't. But I mean, it's all I'm thinking is, 10 years out, 15 years out, one of these Earth 2 like projects takes off and it becomes Linden Labs, and it becomes the same thing as the Oasis in Ready Player One, and they are the ipso facto, the de facto, this is where we go to jump into our AR VR experiences type thing.
Again, there's no exclusivity on this. There's no like you walk into the plaza and the plaza, which owns their own brand, by the way, I'm sure they would not.
I'm sure they do.
Right? They're not going to want you to have a virtual plaza. If the plaza itself decides they want to have a virtual presence somewhere, they could do it with this one, but there's nothing to stop 20 others doing the same thing.
No, there's not.
But it would be interesting if there was some sort of a planet-wide, now this is, getting grandiose, but a planet-wide agreement that there's like, air rights, like in New York, right? So above the buildings, they own the air rights, every building. And they can sell those air rights. So they can say, I'm not going to build 4 stories higher, but I'm going to sell the 4 stories to the building next door and they're going to buy them from me, right? So if you own the digital rights to that plot of land, and you actually own them and nobody else is allowed to build them unless they pay you a licensing fee, that's a different story. But right now, anybody can just go, hey, I've got scans of the Earth and I'm going to build an Earth. And I dislike their language. I dislike the way they describe it. It's a lot of hype. It's a lot of,
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Not just hype. It's a lot of making it sound like, that's marketing, I suppose, but it's a cheap, I'm sorry. I really dislike this. It's a cheap ploy. It's a cheap ploy, and the only person who can make money off it is them. I mean, a couple people might make some money by buying a bunch of, retail or a plot of land, and I think there was one guy who said he's going to build his digital portfolio on there. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. You want a digital portfolio, you want your VR portfolio, and you want to have a land where you can show off what you've done, and when you put it on your portfolio, on your resume or on your website, and then it fires up the app. Or the future, I've been looking at a lot of WebXR lately. I am remarkably surprised at how good some of that stuff is, and that doesn't require an app. So, I was visiting Mars, which is really kind of fun, using footage from NASA. NASA built their own VR app about, driving around Mars. And it was really very red and flat, but other than that, it was cool. There's another one that puts you in 360, environments of famous places around the world, and you're literally standing there, and there's no app needed, and you're in VR through a web browser. I think that's more the future, where you're going to just intermediate the need for all these particular apps, right? And just go in. Because if I'm going to have a portfolio, I want to make it as frictionless as possible for people to see it, and not make somebody who I want to see my portfolio download the app, register with my personal information, and then have to, it's like a lot of steps to get somebody to look at your stuff. Whereas if you want somebody to look at your stuff, the way to do it is be a web-based experience, and then you don't have to have anything special to have, share as many times as you want. But that's a particular use case. It's just speculation. I just, yes, you can make money from speculation, but it kind of rubs me the wrong way.
It's weird, but I still think that someone has the opportunity to build the Oasis, whether it is web-based or whether it is, just cloud-based. Wherever it's located, someone has the ability to create one of these experiences that is the one that is the next Facebook, or
Well, I think Facebook is going to do it. Honestly,
you think Facebook will do it?
I think that's what Facebook is working on. Yeah,
that's what their social VR is.
Yeah, they're putting a lot of energy and effort into social VR, and I think they're working very hard at being the de facto, because it is a social networking platform, right? It's just the next generation of it. I mean, the thing is about the Oasis, do you curate that? Or is it just user generated, like Second Life mostly was, and Second Life curation, and then people just go, I don't want to be social. I want to just be social with people I want to be social with on my island. And that doesn't create a very engaging
that's
experience.
Where your force field starts coming up, like we were talking about in the last episode.
I know, you fly into it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that looks really pretty. I'd like to.
It was really funny. There goes my avatar. Yeah, seriously. I don't know. I think the Oasis, and I love the book, Ready Player One, and I love the movie as well. I love them both. I think the concept of a virtual world that we're all in, but it has to be something with like a Facebook scale, right? To make it, the more that people are engaged, the more content there's going to be. The more content there is, the more engaging it is. The more there's stuff to do. It's just like some of those alternate Facebooks that have started up, where unless you have a few friends there, everybody's trying to get their friends to sign up for it, right? Because there's nobody there. It's kind of the same idea. I think a lot of people are just buying these plots of lands because they think it'll be worth something in the future. They're not doing anything with it. So now you've got a virtual space that has, a digitized Earth. You own, a piece of New Hampshire or whatever. And then it's like, are you just cyber squatting on it? So the hopes that somebody in the future will want a plot of land and you can sell it for more money, right? That's I don't know how many people are actually bothering to build on it or make it something.
Basically, it's the same thing as when URLs started to be sold. Somebody just came in and bought Alka-Seltzer.com before Alka-Seltzer could buy it.
Yeah, cyber squatting. I kind of wish I'd done that. But yeah, and I also think in a way it's just an alternate cryptocurrency investment, right? Or scheme. I won't call it investment. So everybody's, buying all those little tiny Bitcoins are huge now, so there's Ethereum's are huge, but there's like all these smaller cryptocurrency coins. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna buy a few, maybe it'll be worth something. And then this is like you buy a plot of land with essentially the same thing, especially if it's run by a company, if it's backed by their own cryptocurrency that they've created. It's just a token
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, a crypto token is a thing too. It's a token, and it's actually quite smart because I know the SEC has been cracking down on this cryptocurrencies quite hard. You're not allowed to say it's a currency. You're not allowed to say it's any sort of monetary function, and that's why a lot of them are backing the startup investments are now for startups they're using crypto tokens for because they're not allowed to call it currency. And this is just another way of doing the exact same thing. It's just instead of calling it a token, you call it a parcel of land.
And you have to, like, from Earth 2's perspective, they're sort of the first larger scale attempt at this outside of a Second Life or Sansar kind
No,
of
they're
thing.
not the only. No, the other one is bigger. At least it was.
The other one is bigger. Okay.
I forget the one I sent you. There's another. Let me look it up because there's a couple, and the one that I've been hearing about longer is. Let me look up the name.
This makes for compelling podcasting.
I know. I forget the name of it. But
you forgetting the name and me not being prepared.
I am forgetting everything lately. Yeah, but I mean, they're not the only ones. They're not the only ones.
Gotcha.
Matter of fact, they're new. They kind of just seem to have popped up in the last few months. And there's another one that now I can't remember the name, but there's a few.
Spinning gears back around to,
but it's very smart. It's very smart in a way. It's smart for the creators because instead of creating a crypto coin and the SEC getting all funding on them and arresting their officers and shit like that, because they promised if they're a currency, they're not a currency. They're buying and selling something, and that's what it is. I think probably 99% of people are actually just buying with cryptocurrency, their cryptocurrency, a parcel of land, and therefore it is actually not a currency. I'm buying a product for it. It's all very esoteric, right? But whether it's actually going to become, a used one, or if it's just a bunch of people buying it and holding on to it because they think it might be worth something in the future, that doesn't. They don't do anything with it. They just own it.
Right.
It's like owning a cryptocurrency and having the key.
It's it's interesting. Spinning back around to Facebook and what you were talking about with them already having basically the lead in amount of HMDs installed and gobbling up so much talent when it comes to AR VR development.
Can they? It's called. By the way, it's called Decentraland. I just remember that one. That's been around. Buy and sell land, states, avatars. This is Second Life over again, trying to be. Gotcha. They were earlier, meeting last year. And they're the other one I know off the bat. But yeah, I think Facebook. I mean, it's the future of social, isn't it?
If somebody doesn't jump in now, like because there's plenty of VC floating around the globe, to where if you got the right team in front of the right investors, there's enough VC floating around if you made the right pitch to basically put together a team that could come in and compete with Facebook to dominate that space. But is Facebook already so far out in the lead that it's going to be really hard for anyone to catch them unless the government comes in and forces them to break things apart?
Well, they can split up some of their tentacles, but their core is their social platform with the advertising. I don't know. I think it'd be very difficult at this stage. I think the big players have their nice little niches and they know boundaries of where each other plays and they complement each other. They don't take each other. I mean, Google isn't going to launch its own Facebook.
I'm so shocked that they haven't.
Facebook is not. Well, Facebook's not. That's not their core. They make a lot of money from what they do, and it's not search. It's information.
Even more so than Google, I'm shocked that Apple hasn't. I'm really shocked that Apple hasn't jumped into the space. You keep hearing about Apple and develop
development behind the scenes for an HMD and all kinds of different stuff. And
they've been talking about it for a while.
forever, but we never
Yeah.
really see anything. And
Yeah,
if
I love
anyone,
it when I love it when the Apple fans are like, they're leading this space, and I'm like, based on what? I mean, I'm sorry,
they don't even exist in the space.
No, they tell me that. They're like, oh, Apple's leading, and I'm like, okay, where's the product? Where's the product? Like,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I mean, they literally have shown nothing.
Well, they said they're now going to launch AR glasses next year, but they've been saying that for a while, and it doesn't. AR glasses, as much as I love AR, and as much as I think there's huge commercial potential and all that stuff, we'll see. I just, talk is cheap, right?
So we're stuck. We're for better or worse. If you want to play in that space and you want to play in with the latest and greatest toys,
well, there's some others.
Drink the Facebook Kool-Aid, or
I don't know. Unreal is coming in. It's actually coming out with interesting glasses. I've seen them in the real life and working. On AR glasses that have a cover that goes over them, so they turn into VR glasses.
Okay.
That's already, the developers have them in hand. There's some other ones. I'm not saying you can't do a peripheral, but in terms of actually becoming another behemoth like Facebook in terms of social media, I don't think it'd be that. There might be niche ones, but again, the point of it is they're paid for by advertising and other things. And if you can't make that work, I mean, it's expensive to run the servers and the back end and the people it takes to do it all, right? So if you can't reach the critical mass to make that all pay for itself, like Parler had a large amount of investment from dubious sources, but I mean, they were the only one that was starting to get some traction among a certain niche of people, although they did not set themselves up to do that. They ended up there. But I don't know. I mean, I know there's at MeWe. There's one that's been around for a while now. And every once in a while, somebody in my network is like, join me there. And I'm like, yeah, it just never seems to take off. There's some comfort in the fact that your social network has, I'm connected to what? I don't know how many hundreds of people, and I actively engage with a fair number of them. Yeah. Like I know them. Like to go to a new social network. I mean, and as long as it's free, you're still always the product. I don't care what they say.
Oh, totally. Like I looked at Mighty Networks for a little while, and I like some of the aspects of Mighty Networks, just the way that they've laid out their foundation. But it comes back around to how many people are actually there. How many people can you reach out to? And when you're looking at a Facebook with, a couple billion, and you're looking at other sites with a couple million at best, which one are you going to jump on?
Well, I mean, yeah. And then I think inertia is a big part of it. People are like, I'm there. I know it. I understand the interface. I know I hate it. It's a devil I love, I don't know.
Why do we hate it though? Like in this day and age,
I don't hate it.
I was going to say why are so many people like the people? I know a lot of people who literally will not put an Alexa or my
other half is a privacy nut.
Yeah, we know.
He actually works in it, but he won't have one either, and I'm okay with that. The always listening thing does. The biometric data is why I think
it creeps me out, but at the same time, Facebook already knows everything. Facebook and Google already know if you've ever been anywhere near those platforms, if you've ever used Chrome, if you've ever they already know. They literally already know.
Well,
so
they do.
Saying, Alexa, play the River Dogs. They already know.
It's the always listening thing, I think, and it's also the biometric data they have from recording your voice, which biometric data is not like a password. You can't change it. If it gets hacked once, it's done, right? And there's enough ways to synthesize it and to steal your data. All those medical doctors and others and insurance companies, they're like, let us have your voice print so you can log in using your voice. I'm like, I'm not giving you my voice. I don't know what your policies are regarding security. I don't know your back end. I don't know what your policies are regarding sharing of that Like that's a one-time data, right? The biometric data can't be changed. So I think the Alexa thing is also the biometric part of it. I don't know if everybody.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they already have our voice. You don't think so?
No, I think unless you give them permission, I still don't think they're surreptitiously doing it. No, I don't. Facial recognition, yes. Voice,
Without
no.
a doubt. Without
Yeah.
a doubt, facial.
Even though from day one I clicked on the do not save, don't identify my face. I mean, it's a rabbit hole. You can't escape from, but you can still fight it. I think.
It's crazy. It's a rabbit hole that you can't escape from unless you want to live in a cabin in the woods and sit there and be completely disconnected from.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of people that want to do that.
I wouldn't. I'm cold just thinking about it.
You don't have to live in a cabin in the woods in Minnesota. You could live in a cabin. There are woods in Florida. You could go to Bermuda and live in a cabin.
Or I could go back and live in Amsterdam and be in the EU, which actually does a lot more to protect my identity and data.
You could totally do that.
Yeah. Despite the lovely gray skies.
I had a weird thing with my phone the other day where I was talking to someone about Subaru, and like,
are you getting mad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that there's so many anecdotes about that.
The only thing that was around was my phone. Like it was in the middle.
It's anecdotal. I know. I had a friend who went to the supermarket and he bought a brand of sausages that he swears he's never bought in his life, and he isn't a loyalty customer, so there's no way to tie it back to anything. And he started getting ads for that brand of sausage. And he's like, I'm done. He quit Facebook after that and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, it's hard to argue with it. I mean, I know in my head that having worked with clients on, that there really isn't, as far as I've ever seen or heard, a client gathering data like that, because it would be against the law to do that, right? It's illegal. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but on the other hand, there's too many anecdotes that are similar. So my friends started saying really random weird things just to say, like, to test it out, like all kinds of really weird random words to see if she started getting ads for weird random things.
Start talking about
she did not
and start talking about baby wipes and
she did far worse, but it
I have literally never had a Subaru ad show up on my phone before, like browsing through Facebook.
Do you have an Apple or an Android?
Apple.
Same. I'm an Android now, happen to be.
Mm-hmm. I have an Apple because the social media portion of Apple, in back when I left Android and went to the Apple infrastructure, there were so many more apps, like photo editing apps and video editing apps.
I use Photoshop.
It wasn't available when I switched over. It wasn't a thing.
Actually, the advanced graphics programs, none of them are Apple. That's the funny thing. That's why I mean, all the more advanced stuff is actually not Apple.
Yeah. I use,
which is,
but
it's funny because it's supposed to be
the
graphics. It's all Apple, and I'm like, actually, that's not true. Back in the day when I was working in London and the VFX, it was all Linux and Windows, not Apple at all.
I just found it so much easier to navigate the Apple infrastructure when I switched.
I refuse on principle. I've never been cool, and I'm not going to start. That being said, we're both now members of Clubhouse, right? So I had to borrow an Apple phone to register my Clubhouse.
We do need to check out Clubhouse. We need to jump in there and see what's going on in the AR VR world, in the XR world.
I've been asked to give a talk, so we'll see.
Okay.
In Clubhouse. That's cool. As far as it's gotten. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but I have a pretty good idea.
Do that.
And,
I said, do that. I'll jump in.
I will find out more. Anyway, so have I been sufficiently dampered on the buying and selling crypto-based digital virtual lands or not?
No. Well, obviously, no matter what yours and my opinion are, it's not going to stop. I mean, there are going to be people who still want to pursue it for whatever reasons they want to pursue it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a market for everything. I just think that one of the things that was the downfall of Second Life was that there was no, sorry, there was no game mechanism, right? It is literally you're sitting in your second house, right?
Right.
Which is why I picked this background, because I used to live in Amsterdam or Amsterdam, Holland. So this is my second house. So I was cracking up as it's the same one. But there's no game mechanism. So ultimately, you know, you can create your own things to do and you can sit and hang out with somebody, but it's the same thing with, you know, are they going to create a game, a world-based game? That's interesting. Could be interesting.
Well, that's what I'm wondering about Earth 2 and these other things that are popping up. Is it just a land grab? Is like, and if it's just a land grab, then that is incredibly boring.
Yeah, they're promising all sorts of things in the future, but not the teasing. But they're not saying, yeah, as far as I know, it's just buy this before it gets too hot. You can't have any more because we only have a certain amount and we're limiting the number each person can buy. It reminds me of those late night infomercials. Buy now, but if you call in the next 5 minutes, you know,
we'll give you
we
only two ShamWows for the price
buy
of one.
two, and that's it. That's it. No more. And then it's gone. When it's gone, everybody's like, oh my God, it's going to be gone. I must buy it now. And then, yeah. And they're promising it's going to be all sorts of things, but who knows whether that's, yeah, I don't know. They get enough people, enough money, which they are. Enough people are ready to buy their 750 square or whatever it is parcel. That's the max you're allowed to buy, because you're not allowed to have more because it's too much. Fine.
What are you trying to say?
I'm a dry. There's a word for it in Dutch. Nuchter. I'm very nuchter, very dry. And about this stuff, I just don't buy into hype.
It's weird. Like if there is no gamification of it, then why?
I don't think so.
And not necessarily. It doesn't even have to be gamification. It could be a commerce.
No, I think the point is they're trying. What I briefly, and I'm saying briefly, saw is that they're trying to be a Second Life. They're trying to go here. You can buy your land. Here you can buy and sell things. Here you can create avatars that you can buy and sell to other people, and you know, outfits in, and you can make a nightclub and charge people to get in, and you can build your own stuff. But it's you buy a parcel and you do something with it, and then you try to buy and sell using their blockchain, by the way, their blockchain currency, and it's closed currency. And then how do you get your money out? I mean, you could. It's a little convoluted. Like, how much is the transition? How much does like one Earth 2 unit of currency translate to $1 US? Like when you take it out, what is the exchange rate? And who sets that? And what decides it? Right? You don't know.
I feel the same way about Bitcoin. It's still a mystery to me. Like it's
not a mystery. I get it. I totally get it. But I mean, I live with Mr. Blockchain, who actually built his own for his job. He actually built an exchange, right? They created their own blockchain currency. Because it wasn't for currency, it was for identity. It's for a different application, but same idea. So, I mean, I understand it's not super complicated. Honestly, I can easily explain it to you at some point.
I understand the reasons why blockchain exists. I understand, like, from a security standpoint, I understand it makes a lot of sense. What I don't understand is the creation of a currency out of thin air that is not backed by anything. And this is kind of the same thing with the Earth 2 and Sansar and all that.
Well, their answer to you would be there's nothing back in fiat currency either. And it's the same
there's no valuation.
I see no value in going back to multiple different currencies that you have to somehow exchange all the time. If anything, I would love to see a world currency where there's one unit of currency and you don't have to worry about exchanges and what is it worth today, and you know, all that stuff. The EU did that effectively in Europe, because when I lived in Europe, I lived in Europe a lot of times, but when I was younger, you know, you cross the border, you had to exchange your money. You had to pay a percentage for that every time. And then you had a wallet full of various currencies, which you don't pay the butt, right?
Yeah.
So why would you want to go back to having all those different currencies and all those different things? You know, crypto is no longer anonymous. It is no longer as fast a transaction as a centralized database. I mean, it's not anonymous. I mean, that was initially, I was like, oh, it's anonymous. I can move my money around. You can't. You have to, KYC has been instituted around the world. So you have to know your customer. You have to register. They have to verify it's you. There's no more hiding money. Oh, it's not. Everybody thinks they're so surreptitious. It's not. So I'm like, what's the benefit? Other than it's decentralized, so it's harder to hack, right? Unless you get a 51% attack, which happened, which is when 51% of the nodes go down, and then all of a sudden nodes are not being written to properly. And that already happened, so that can be done too. So I don't know. I am a big naysayer today. Positive. Positive.
You are on the poo-poo side of the conversation today.
Well, it's because it has to do with crypto. That's why. That's why. I mean, I've been, my entire career has been being a strategist and a consultant mostly. And that involves analyzing. And I prefer to be honest when I analyze with my clients and not, blow smoke up anybody's butt. And if I think something is not a good, it's my analysis from my head, I'm gonna do this, my opinion. But if my analysis says, I don't think this, so I think I mentioned this, my first date 10 years ago with this one, I'm looking at this, we argued about crypto for 2 hours. Because
really?
No, seriously, that's what we did. Because, I exactly on your side of the fence, I'm like, but it's an empty speculation. And I'm not saying you can't make money with speculation. You can, but it's not backed by anything. It's based on the fact that other people are dying for it. So you hype it up and then, yeah. And then he likes to say, if I had just bought 10 Bitcoin when we met, we would be fine right now. It'd be great. We would be living on an island or whatever, 15 Bitcoin. Because it was a couple pennies and we were arguing about it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So why didn't we buy in when it was $5 a coin or whatever it was?
Because I thought it was total bullshit.
Yeah, so did I. And that's,
I still think it's bullshit. It's just bullshit you can make money on.
Right now.
Yeah.
Are we going to wake up one morning and it's just going to be wiped out of existence?
No, I don't think so. I don't know if it might crash in value, but no, I don't think it's going to be wiped out. But the people are forecasting it's going to go up to 100,000, 500,000 of Bitcoin. Come on, it's just everybody's shortage creates higher
What's
prices.
driving it?
Driving it is hype.
It's just hype. It is the absolute.
I have been known to say this before. I will say it again. It is the tulip craze of 1604 in Amsterdam. It is like when tulips were selling for hundreds of dollars or more a piece, and all of a sudden one day it just collapsed because all of a sudden they weren't worth that much anymore.
It is the biggest
everybody was
bubble
hawking their house to buy tulips because they were going to sell it to the next person for more. It's the same. It's the same.
It's a giant bubble.
I think Ethereum is a little. Why are we talking? This is not here. We can talk about it. I think Ethereum is a little better because Ethereum is used oftentimes to be the currency that powers startups and finances startups. So it actually is involved with companies that exist and are making products, and people are, creating things with it. So it has a little more behind it than Bitcoin, which really is just, I'm going to hold it until more people want it. And then I'm going to
we're talking about this because it does tie back around to the
virtual world.
The virtual world, the AR VR side of this is things like Earth 2 and the other sites that are out there where it's they're creating value the same way that Bitcoin has created value. It's literally on hype, and there is an AR VR tie-in to. To the tangent we just said we weren't going to go off on, but did anyway.
The currency is what they're creating their cryptocurrency for the island buying and selling. But there is blockchain, which is the decentralized computing that underpins it all, is a valid technology. And I think there are, any number of applications for that. As I said before, there are artists who are selling their artwork on the blockchain. And the blockchain is immutable. It is rights, the ledger is updated regularly, constantly, microseconds, so that there is a record of who owns it, and it follows that digital art piece forever. So there's a secondhand market to be created for digital goods. I think there's a lot of good that can come out of blockchain. which is different than Bitcoin. Those are two different things, you know? And blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin, but it can also be used for other things. It can, like Sean was working on in a company that did blockchain for identity, so that your identity was on the blockchain. So no matter where you went, if you were a refugee, if there was a fire in your house, if, you know, there's a number of reasons why you would want identity on the blockchain, which I think is very good application for blockchain. But in this case, I think it's actually just being used as a let's keep the SEC happy, so people can say they bought something with these tokens, and it's not a currency, you know.
So the tie-in between blockchain and these purchasable digital land parcels is really only going to pay dividends if there is one of these virtual land things that becomes the de facto, that becomes the Facebook of this, where
Well, they can
like
have their own economy. I mean,
right,
they
right,
can have their own economy, but they have to drive a lot of people there to make it worth it.
yeah, it would need
That's
to
where
be
they are.
a billion people all agree that this is the one that we want to, this is the sandbox we want to play in, kind of, or even
No,
500 million or whatever it is.
I don't think so. I think there can be a small economy, but the more people there are, the more you have people who want to buy, and
Right.
and a marketplace for the goods, the digital virtual goods you create there, right?
And then
So, I mean,
you
if
go
you,
in, you and I go in and we buy Manhattan basically,
right,
and that's linked to us through blockchain.
right, it's
And that
blockchain
way,
registered,
that's our title to the
right,
parcel of land that we have
for in their Manhattan, because there isn't
Manhattan.
in their
Right.
Manhattan, because every company can have Manhattan,
Right, in their Manhattan, but
Right.
their Manhattan is one of the more valuable versions of AR/VR Manhattan. So then if we wanted to turn around and start selling off little chunks of it or the whole
Sure,
thing at one time, we
sure,
have a record of the title and ownership, and then we can
sure,
transfer that to,
sure,
and
right,
that's what
exactly,
becomes the link and the vital
Right.
part of that.
right. And then didn't they say like the value of Manhattan was $1, it went up to $8 per unit in 3 weeks? That's the
Something like that, yeah.
speculation part. All of a sudden, people are aware. That's why they have to hype it so much, because all of a sudden there's people like, yeah, I want in on this. Well, how much are you willing to say? It's a bid and a bidding site basically, and bidding goes up when more people want something. So
It's trading in futures.
yeah, it's well,
yeah.
in hopeful futures, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's futures, it's options trading,
Right.
in a way. I mean, options at least have a company behind them, yeah.
It's
no,
exciting and
commodities. I mean, yeah,
it's exciting and
it's
terrifying.
like commodities trading. It's like
Commodities
it's more
trading,
like
yeah.
commodities. It's more like the futures of what do I think the demand for pork rinds is going to be, or orange juice in the future, and you have variables that you can't control, like the weather and delivery and coronavirus. And so, is it going to be a shortage, and therefore it'll drive the price up? So I'm gonna, yeah, it's like that.
Unless it's, you remember Trading Spaces?
I was just thinking of that. I tried out for that movie.
Did you? What?
I cut school to go. Me
You're
and my
kidding.
best friend. No, where's Philadelphia? Me and my best friend went down in our nice little private school uniforms to try out for Trading Places.
That is amazing.
And they told us to walk across the room with a bunch of other people because we were just going to be, Philadelphia extras in the background. Apparently, 2 high school girls in a kilt and knee socks and a blazer did not look like the average Philadelphia person walking across. So we did not get into the movie, but we actually tried out for that. I was a senior in high school.
Awesome.
I know.
I think let's end it on that. It's not going to get any better than that. We've been talking for an hour. That's about how long we want.
Gosh, it goes fast.
I know, it goes really fast because we get into it, and it's.
I don't consider. I want to just caveat. I don't consider myself a naysayer. I consider myself. I analyze. I'm an analyst. I analyze. I deconstruct. I analyze. I do not naysay unless I think it's not worth something, and that's.
It's a realistic. It's a realistic view based on facts and analyzation that. From things that you've seen coming down the pipe. So
this is just my opinion, but it's
right.
It is somewhat of an unpopular one with all these people who are big fan into it. But I think if you look at it critically, it kind of falls apart. Not saying you can't make money. You can make money, but it's a gamble. It's just like walking into the casino and going, "Hey, this is a real."
Put it all on black. Yeah, put it all on Manhattan.
I've never been a gambler.
I'm not either.
No.
I have 50 cents. I have 2 quarters that I won at the Bellagio framed, and I took a nickel slot and I won 50 cents,
Wow.
and then I turned around and walked out.
I have a handbag because when I went to Las Vegas with a bunch of friends and they were all losing money gambling, I decided to lose my money in a way at least I know I'd get something for it. So I went shopping.
Go to the Miracle Mile and you could spend 40 times what you would spend for the same thing anywhere else on the planet.
I know it's a loss, so I'd rather lose it and get something for it.
Nice.
So I just bought things. I bought a handbag. That was my biggest trip.
All right, well, I'm gonna buy one of the rings of Saturn.
Okay.
And we're gonna set the podcast up on that.
Okay, that sounds
virtually,
good.
I think. I'd rather, if you could buy stuff like that in one of these environments, I'd be more interested in buying something out in the middle of the Milky Way somewhere.
Make it happen, Sean.
I'm done with this planet.
Make it happen.
Well, that has been this episode of Talking Spatial. If you got anything out of that at all, please
all the hate mail. Just send it.
Direct it to who do we
Linda.
Want that directed to? No, I'm not gonna wish that on you.
That's all right.
Let's direct it to someone else. Who do we not like today? Let's just direct it there. We appreciate everybody tuning in, though. It's honestly, there's a lot more people tuning in than we thought there would be at this stage of the game, and we thank
That's great.
you very much for jumping in.
We'll see how they like us after this one.
I mean, we're realistic. We're realistic from our own points of view. We're realistic.
I consider myself a critical thinking person. I critically analyze it. And I've been 10 years of talking about blockchain and Bitcoin. This is where I am with it. So.
It's an educated opinion, a very educated opinion.
It's mine. So
there you go. You're allowed to have it. It's amazing how that works.
It's great. So you hit a certain age. You hit a certain age, and you're like, I'm okay with mine.
I'm okay with that opinion. I think next week we might be coming off from the space station. So,
yeah, that would be cool. We're gonna give that a try. I love that.
Let's play around with that. And I'm gonna shut this down before I completely disappear from view. Hope everybody has a great week. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Bye.